So who says the little guy always loses? According to a new Gallup poll, Americans have 3 times more confidence in small businesses than in large ones. A sign Americans are losing faith in big institutions. Well, Joe Dutra is CEO of Kimmy Candy Company, a small business that employs 36 workers. Joe, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Tell us a little bit about the company. Did you build it from scratch?
You know, I built the business from scratch. You know, I was a farmer in Sacramento, California, and had an idea and kind of lived the great American dream of starting a candy factory on a ranch that turned into a kind of a national brand. So I'm very lucky. The candy company started out as a sideline business for my kids during the summer, and it just one thing led to the other, and a little bit of entrepreneurial luck and a lot of hard work. And,
oh, that's good.
And next thing you know, we're in Reno, Nevada, producing tens of thousands of pounds of candy per day.
By the way, when you hear some politicians say you didn't build that, what do you say?
Well, I know I built it. You know, I did a commercial during the last political round, and when we were all told that we didn't build it, and I think that, you know, entrepreneurs and people that have ideas, you know, they're the things that make this country great. And I went through all the struggles sitting home with my wife and kids at night and figuring out what we had to give up to get the business going. And so I know that my hands built this business.
Yeah. You know, that's another thing, Joe, that a lot of people don't understand. When a lot of politicians, I would say the envious politicians will say, oh, these business owners, they just spend all their money on limousines and places in the Caribbean and so forth. I'm willing to bet, I don't know you personally, but I'm willing to bet that you probably put most of the profit, the overwhelming amount of it, right back into business, don't you?
I did. You know, I was fortunate. I had an agricultural seed company that I basically didn't take any money out of the candy business for the first 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
And every bit of profit that I made, I put back in to hire better employees, to give, you know, better working conditions, more new equipment, to be able to have production. And you know, I had an offshore manufacturing facility for many years, and because I really didn't know what I was doing as a business owner of a manufacturing company. And once I realized that the business was going to be successful, I wanted to create jobs in the U.S. And so we moved back here in 2008 and been highly successful over the recession with our candy factory.
Now, is there something about a small business that a big corporation can't deliver?
Well, you know, I think it's humanity. I really believe, you know, small businesses have the ability to move quicker, go after more niche markets. I think we have a heart for our employees and for our customers. And I think that's what a lot of big businesses lack as they get to be huge. I mean, an employee ends up being a cost factor to the company and not really part of the family. And I think that's what changes. You know, all businesses, after they get, you know, we all start at the same spot. Every big business at one time was a small business, but I think in the growth, they tend to lose a little bit of their humanity. And
Lauren Simonetti, we want to bring in the Fox All-Stars here. There is something when you have a sort of a family-operated business that translates into the product, and that can be perceived by the consumers. They like a small business.
That you care about your consumer. You're listening to them because your business, your family's wealth depends on how successful your business is. This is a risk-on kind of market. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. They create the jobs. And I'm curious what Joe would have to say about this, but Joe, are you confident in Congress? 7% of Americans right now have confidence in Congress. That's nothing. Do you feel confident that this administration is helping you and supporting you?
You know, at this moment, I don't. I think we have a very dysfunctional government at the moment. I think there's too much partisanship, and I don't think it's good for business. You know, the best thing for business is really to take all the unknowns out of it. If you know every year you're going to have a certain cost or a certain medical cost or whatever, but uncertainty is what really scares a lot of new entrepreneurs.
And Scott, I'm wondering whether the distrust of the big companies and the big business, and frankly, big government as well, whether that translates into some of the the fear that people have towards the stock market, that it's just these big guys and we have no control, and therefore I'm going to keep my money in cash.
It sure does, David. And you know what happens? The big guys buy the little guys, right? Or they push the little guys out of there. And I think if you're America, right, I mean, it is small business, like Lauren said, and it is building things with your hands. And a lot of the Congress members, you know, on both sides, David, never had any experience in small business. You know, that's why they seem to be so disconnected, to Joe's point. And, David, don't forget the big businesses also have the money to spend the money on the lobbyists and all the money in D.C. anyway to get what they want. Everybody knows it.
Joe, that's a great point, isn't it? That the big companies may be disassociated from their customers, but they can afford the lobbyists, they can afford the lawyers, they can afford the accountants that the small guys can't.
Well, that's right. You know, it's like about taxes. You know, as you get a little bigger, you know, you can afford to have the best tax attorneys and accountants to make sure that you pay less taxes. But small businesses, they can't afford those big high-priced guys that, you know, can figure out all the loopholes to get you around taxes. So you end up paying a lot of taxes for a small business, and then eventually when you become a multinational or a large business, you have a whole group of attorneys and tax attorneys that keep you out of those tax
And Hadley, most of the laws, of course, a lot of regulations are local, but most of the laws come out of Washington, D.C., and that's where these big corporations have their hooks in, and very often they want to push out a lot of the smaller competition, don't they?
Right, from
I think they do. I think what happens is
Hold on a second, Joe. I want to give that to Hadley. We'll come back to you for a final word. Go ahead, Hadley.
You know, from a favorability standpoint, it does big business absolutely no favors to engage in cronyism, to be a rent-seeking, lobbying sort of corporation. But we also have to remember that Americans, despite what they say in the days, do give a big vote of confidence to big business when they continue to spend money there. You know, the biggest vote of confidence you can give to a business is to patronize it. So Americans are doing both. They're continuing to support small businesses in their communities, but they are buying Microsoft, Apple, Starbucks, Walmart. They're buying from these big corporations despite maybe their favorability rating.
I own Apple products. I own Apple stocks. But, Joe, final word to you. Go ahead.
You know, I think that, you know, all businesses it's business. But I think what the American public needs to think is small business drives the economy. You know, it's good for your community. The tax dollars stay here. They don't end up going overseas. And big business has its part in this economy,
Sure does.
And I think it's a driver, but I really think small business and the entrepreneurs out there really need to be supported. It's about buy America, and, you know, it's about buy local, and I think those are the things that will make America great again.
You're a good man, Joe Dutra. We appreciate you coming on. Thanks very much. Good to have you here. Coming up, does America have World Cup fever?